Mariana Da Silva, welcome. Welcome to From Another Zero. Esta es tu casa. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Very happy to have people from the LA side and From Another Zero. We are very fond of everybody, but especially from our Los Angeles cousins, I would like to say. So what brings us here today is because you wrote and are co-directing, let's say, because we have a movement director too on the piece, right? Called YBOR City.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wrote this piece and I'm directing the piece, and then we do have a movement director who is incredible. And her name's Stephanie Galindo. The work that the play is doing really is playing with language. It's our first bilingual play. So I wanted it to express in language, but also in movement. And so the play has projections and music. And so I think that that's such a huge part of our culture that I wanted to really, highlight that within the show. So It's really exciting. And, it's been, I look back at when it started, and I started writing this, and it feels like a lifetime ago, but also not that long ago. So it's an interesting feeling, but seeing it all, come in, manifest itself on stage is such a beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm. And going back a little bit, can you tell us about yourself? You are Brazilian Mexican, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was born in Brazil, and my mom and my family moved to Miami, and then I grew up in Mexico because my dad was in Mexico. And so it's always been this like shift of culture and migrating to different places. And so I feel like I've gone through the process of migration several times in my life. And so, this plays a lot about that experience. And I think sometimes we talk about it as something that unites, but it's also something that can divide and cause like separations within families. But yeah, and it's always been interesting for me to connect with where I'm from, because I feel like I'm from so many places. So, yeah, I grew up in Miami. I started working as an actor, and then in Telemundo, and then I came out to Los Angeles, and I always wrote, but I didn't realize that was something that, I wanted to do until I came to the conclusion that if I wanted to see more stories about our community, that I would have to start writing them myself. And so that's how, I've started to everything I write usually plays with language, because I think in 3 different languages. And so, it's something that I'm very proud of. And I think especially for Latinos and Latina people, it's like we've always been taught to really hide a lot of feelings and a lot of that. And I feel like, and also just there was time that there was shame for speaking Spanish, and so I think it's important for me to incorporate that. That's the Bow song, so come for great music as well. So that's how this all kind of started. Yeah.
Can you tell our audiences what the play is about?
Yeah, so YBOR City is actually a city in Florida, where originally most of the people from Cuba and from Europe were migrating to, because there was a big cigar boom. And they started a lot of cigar factories. And so there was this kind of new idea of a culture where everybody was from everywhere. And so it was a place where language was like Spanish, English, Italian, and there were social clubs, and it was just this very, very vibrant place that was the house of, like a melting pot, which I feel like LA is a lot like. And so this is the story of cigar factory workers who are overworked, and in these cigar factories there were these readers who would read to the workers. They're called lectores, and they would read to the workers while they worked. And so the play challenges the idea of what if the spirit world got involved to connect with those workers and teach them about themselves and teach them about literature and to think for themselves and kind of get out of that machine, element that was happening in the 1930s, and and explore like what they want. And so the play is a lot about liberation and about education as well, the power of education. And there's a ghost story and a spiritual element, because I feel like we can't have a Latin play and not have a spiritual element in there. So yeah.
And then with the English and the Spanish, it being the first one at the Actors Gang, which is awesome, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. From what I read, is it going to be kind of like flowing the words in between Spanish, English, Spanish, or is it going to be chunks? How is that going to look like?
Yeah, so it is that. I love that you said that, because I feel like the bilingual experience is the combination of language. And so it's a big mix of it. And the cool thing is we have subtitles that are incorporated in the show. So they're not just subtitles that are there to guide you through the show, but they're a part of the show, the projections and the stories. And but the goal is that as you watch it, you're understanding, but you're not quite sure which language you're understanding. You just understand what's happening, which I do think is, how it works for me when I'm in my brain. And so I hope that's the effect of it. And here we work with the states of emotion. So happy, sad, afraid, or angry. We have this, it's part of the style. We have a signature style here at the gang. And that's one of the aspects of it. And I always say and think that emotion transcends language. And so I'm really excited to, that's a big part of it, so that's where the movement comes in. And I think these actors and artists on stage are just so incredible, and they're out here like showing you their heart. I think language will be no barrier for anybody, in whichever way.
I love it. Yes. And sometimes when people are afraid to see certain types of pieces because of language or things like that, it's just that the piece itself is the language, and it's hard sometimes to grasp that. So you have to just go do it.
Yeah, you gotta go do it.
Feel all the feels, and then you'll be like, okay,
Yeah, I think like we as humans, you see somebody suffering, you see somebody happy, it's not, you don't need to hear what they have to say. And I think that's the beauty of this is, and what intrigued me about the story was that it was about reading to the workers. And so language in the element of literature, and then I felt like, since this was the first bilingual play, how do we celebrate words really in all languages? And so the play really incorporates that. And I hope that people take a chance on it, because you will understand for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I also love the vibe that I'm getting, at least from what I've read and talking to you now, is that it was that period. Mm-hmm. Trying to frame it and phrase it, very male dominated, heavy, and to be the story to be told and created by a woman, that's awesome. Yeah. The directorial reigns. That's awesome.
It's really been an honor to be trusted with it. I feel so. Our artistic director here, Tim Robbins, has been guiding me from when it was an idea to now that I'm directing it. And the fun part about this story is that it really does also touch on like the machismo within culture, and and it has elements of that. And I think this is also about female empowerment, very much, the show. And so it becomes about the first female lectora. And so it's also just, I'm in the show. So it's a complete joy to play her and to bring life this character that finds her voice in the show. Mm-hmm. But the play also plays with time. So like now and then, so it has this element of awareness of like where we are today. And so I think that, and it has music from, like, we have violin covers of Bad Bunny and all kinds of like cool reggaeton songs that are incorporated into these reading pieces. So it's current and old, which is cool. And it's something that I really want to kind of tie the knot of. I think it's important to know our history in this country specifically, because this is based on truth, a true city and true strikes that were happening. And so I think it's important to know, but also know that YBOR City is Los Angeles, you know, YBOR City is Miami, like these places where culture is fully at and celebrated. And so that's what excited me about, you know, directing a piece in this time and also having a conversation about what it meant to be a woman, what it meant to be a daughter and a sister, you know, and that's all in the show.
I love it. And Mariana is in tech right now, everybody.
Yeah, right? So that's the chaos you're hearing. I apologize.
No, not at all. We have the true experience here and we're taking her away a little bit from it. So we're very grateful for the time and the space. So the speaking of space, this space is called From Another Zero. And it is because we just don't start from zero. We start from another zero because of our learning tools and just life. You can't start from zero when you start over. You already have that experience. So we always ask our guests what their other zero or other zeros have been. We have plenty in life, but one that pops right now to you as we're doing this interview.
I feel like this, I don't know if this answers that correctly, but I feel like one of the things that I'm so grateful for was that when I first moved out to Los Angeles, I really thought that I was just going to come here in my acting career that had been really working and Telemundo was going to like shift over and it was just all going to, doors were going to open and here I come, you know, and it wasn't like that. And then I started writing and I think I grew up acting. So I had scripts around me my whole life. I read a lot of plays and I love the theater. And I'm so grateful that things didn't work out like that because then I started writing, you know, and I just had all these opportunities like go the way that I thought, all those auditions that I was so devastated for not getting, I would have never found this. So I think for me, like a thing that I always think like anytime you're starting over or anytime you're thinking about things, if things are not working, it's like there is something here for you to take from it. There is an opportunity here. Like, where is the gap? Where is the gap that you can fill? You know, and I started realizing the gap that I could fill was telling stories of my community. And I specifically started picking spaces where I felt like that wasn't happening and being comfortable going to those spaces and telling people about us, you know? So I feel like all that came from of something that used to feel so negative and so devastating when I didn't get what the roles that I really thought I wanted. So I think it's like trust. You have to have a lot of trust that like, as long as you're doing the work and you're moving forward and every day is just like, what are the things I have to get done? If I do one thing towards my goals one day, a day, you can really get far, you know? So yeah, I think does that answer it? Because I feel like that's like been my lesson as I sit here and I direct this show. I'm like, wow, like how wonderful that I had the time to do this, you know, that I had the time to think up this world and that I saw the necessity of it and pushed forth anytime I could to keep it moving forward.
I love it's correct.
Yeah, good,
I mean, there's points where you're like, are there any, you know, I'm always like, there are no correct answers. But yeah, that was totally on the mark. And I love that gap part, filling the gap, because that's a really, really good and a learning curve way to look at things. Like, what is missing? Where are these gaps, these holes where I can really jump in, right, and feel it? And you can take it anyway, like love, you know, art, dance,
yeah,
all these language and the history. Is like for me that I'm just like, I should have studied better in school and know these things.
I didn't. Trust me, I did not study, really. I feel like I've taught myself everything by going out in the world and doing it, you know.
And so you are opening soon and March 7th, and you run almost the full month until the 31st.
Till the 30th. So we open March 7th and we are doing a show every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. Thursdays are Pay What You Can. And we run till March 30th. So, and that day we have a matinee, a 4 p.m. matinee.
Good. So everybody go support, go see. And tickets are $25. So
Yeah, and Thursdays they're pay what you can. So really you have no excuse not to come down here and say hello to me.
Exactly. And almost everybody is addicted to coffee, and we know, and we don't brew it at home. So we know.
Yeah.
You can do a ticket and the pay what you can if you
Exactly.
can't do the $25. So Mariana, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you again for, squeezing us in with this tight schedule. We're very excited for everything that is to come, and hopefully we can catch it and go support as well. Anything that you would like to add?
No, that's all. Thank you for having me. This was so lovely.
Thank you. Same as well. And also looking forward to seeing what is to come with your movie career and all the playwriting and everything else, because we didn't cover it all, but there's other opportunities, right? So
Yes.
From Another Zero is your home. Come back anytime. We would love to have you again. And remember that here, everyone, we just don't start from zero. We start from another zero. Goodbye.